What's going on, everyone? The Philadelphia 76ers, James Harden, Joel Embiid, hopefully can lead this team to a championship, right? Philly has kind of been in that conversation for years now, and it just seems to never develop. Even this past year, James Harden was a no-show when they needed him most. Granted, he was injured, a little overweight, and James Harden has promised to deliver again, that to get back to being the best James Harden any of us have ever seen. Those are his words. That's what he's saying. And hopefully he actually shows that, because the Sixers, they definitely have a team that is worthy of contention, especially if James Harden can get back to being that James Harden we know and love. If he could get back to the Houston Rockets, James Harden, this duo might be the best duo in the league. I mean, they are both incredible. They both offer so many different things, and the intangibles that they both bring to the table could make them a huge contender. But as with all teams, they want to improve. They want to upgrade, especially a guy like Daryl Morey. He doesn't care about draft picks. He doesn't care about assets. He wants to put together the best team that he can. He's a real analytical guy, and therefore it makes sense that, based on reports, Philadelphia is in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. Many teams are trying to acquire Kevin Durant. Based on reports, you got the Pelicans, you have the Toronto Raptors, and then, of course, the Boston Celtics. And now Philly has supposedly thrown their name in the hat. If they can get Kevin Durant, I mean, this would be absolutely huge. I mean, Kevin Durant and Joel Embiid, James Harden and Joel Embiid are by themselves a contender. If you could find a way to get Kevin Durant to add to this duo that they currently have, I mean, you're talking the best team in the league. Seriously, if they can stay healthy and they can stay on the court, this would be monstrous. This might be even scarier than James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving. Although they're all just great scorers, what Joel Embiid offers and provides you is something that none of those three can give you. That low post threat, the guy that can basically score anywhere on the court, play some solid defense, block shots, get your boards, all of that stuff. You would have just a perfect trio, in my opinion. Kevin Durant is a guy that has played with James Harden on several occasions now, right? Back to OKC, obviously with Brooklyn, but that turned out to be a total disaster. And then if he was able to get to Philly, that would be, they have that connection. They have that chemistry already built in. Kevin Durant played with the Warriors, so he knows what it's like to play with multiple stars. Joel Embiid, he might have to make an adjustment, because you got Kevin Durant, you got James Harden, but I don't think it would be that big of a deal. I think that they could kind of still run their offense through him. James Harden can kind of play the point guard. He doesn't have to do as much. And it would also be nice to get Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant could be that go-to closer. He could be the guy that could close these playoff games and stuff, because the biggest knock on James Harden is, regardless of his incredible talent, his lack of delivery and showing up in the big moments, in the playoff series. And last year didn't do him any favors in that argument, right? And so if you had a guy like Kevin Durant, who has proven he can hit the big shot, he shows up in the big moments, he can take over games. Joel Embiid is another guy that has proven he can hit game winners, he can show up in the big moments, he'll do whatever it takes to get the job done. And so to have these two as your closers, as your go-to, it would just take so much pressure off of James Harden. The hope currently for the Sixers is that maybe Maxey can kind of develop into that, but problem is he's so young. He might hit that, sophomore, junior wall that a lot of these players end up hitting. And if that's a problem, especially come the playoffs, then how reliable can you count on him? I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying he won't be able to deliver in those moments, but it's a lot to ask for a young player, a kid, to kind of step into that role of I need you to go out and win this game for us. We're down 5 with 2.5 minutes left. I need you to go and close this game out. Obviously, Joel can do that, but if James Harden isn't showing up, or he's having a bad game, or he's just, doing what he's always done in the big moments, then teams don't really have to worry about him, right? You could just kind of focus on Joel. It'd be nice to have that third option, that guy that could carry that load, which Kevin Durant can do. Now you can't double Embiid. You can't double Harden. Now you got to focus on all three of these. It would be a matchup nightmare all across the board, because who can guard and stop James Harden in this league? And then even if you can, who can stop and guard Kevin Durant? And then even if you can, who can stop and guard Joel Embiid? It just becomes an absolute nightmare, and this trio would be incredible. Now, obviously, any trade would involve Maxey, and it would involve Tobias Harris, because you need salaries. stuff like that. So the Nets would get Tyrese Maxey, likely Thibault, and then a couple first round picks. Probably throw in whatever else you can. And here's the thing: Daryl Morey, he doesn't care if whatever it takes to get Kevin Durant, he will do that. He is proven to be the guy that is willing to go all in, that is willing to do what it takes. He doesn't care about draft picks. He'll trade every draft pick they have if it means getting Kevin Durant and winning a championship. And so Daryl Morey is a guy that many Sixers fans might be thinking, no way, you don't trade Thibault, you don't trade Maxey, you keep them. Yeah, that's great and all, but Daryl Morey will do that this time yesterday if it means getting Kevin Durant. Problem is, I don't think that that's going to be enticing enough for Kevin Durant if you are the Brooklyn Nets. You just kind of got fleeced in the Ben Simmons deal, so I'm sure that that's going to take a part of that. And then on top of that, do you really want to trade James Harden to Philly? And is that package going to be good enough? Yeah, Maxey's great, but he's still young. He's still unproven in many ways. Thibault, he's great defensively, but can he be that second or third guy on a team? You get Tobias Harris. The problem is the Nets, they're not in a position to rebuild. If they were in a position to rebuild, this package might be a decent package. They might look at Maxey as like, hey, he's a young guy that could potentially be a star, that could come in and deliver. Him and Ben Simmons, like they'd already have that kind of connection and stuff. Like, okay, maybe we can make that work. That'd be a good starting point. You got Thibault. Maybe we could get some other young assets, get some other draft picks, things like that. Trade Kyrie to the Lakers. Maybe we can get a couple pieces there, or maybe work out a 3-team deal. If they could rebuild, that would make sense. Problem is, the Brooklyn Nets cannot rebuild, and I don't think that this package is good enough to keep them relevant, to keep them competitive in the Eastern Conference. Now, especially compared to like the Boston Celtics trade. If you could get Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, you take that all day over Maxey and Thibault and some picks, because you're getting a proven guy in Jaylen Brown, a proven all-star, a guy that could be your number one for sure, where there's still a lot of questions with Maxey. Maxey has been fantastic. He was great last year, but can he keep that going? Can he really improve? We've seen lots of players have incredible years and look like they're going to be bona fide stars, and then they just kind of taper off, or they just become average, or things like that. It would be a big risk. But if you were the Nets and you were rebuilding, that might make a lot of sense. The problem is they're not. They need to get the best package available. So I don't know where Philly would be able to give enough to go get a Kevin Durant. Unless Kevin Durant was like, look, I want Philly. Like, that's the team I want to go to. Now, there are reports that Kevin Durant wants either Boston or Philly. And again, if Boston's on the table, they just have the better package. So he's going to Boston. Now, if Philly can get Kevin Durant, then by all means, you go get Kevin Durant. You do whatever it takes to get Kevin Durant, because you're probably winning a title. As long as they are all healthy, I don't see anybody beating those three in a 7-game series. Even if James Harden doesn't show up, I think Kevin Durant and Joel Embiid are enough to win an NBA championship by themselves. You had a guy like James Harden, you're looking golden. And then this three, like I said, they would fit beautifully. Especially Joel Embiid. He's shown that he can be a great passer. You could play the inside-out game, pick and roll. You got all the spot-up shooters. Kevin Durant, James Harden, they still have a great relationship. You got to remember, James Harden didn't leave the Nets because of Kevin Durant. So their relationship is fine. James Harden has said, based on reports, that he wants Kevin Durant. Go get Kevin Durant. Bring Kevin Durant here. And I just think that if you could get this trio, you are hands down the best team in the league. Night and day. Like, how do you stop this offensive just arsenal? I mean, seriously, this might be one of the best big threes ever as far as like what each of these three can do. 3 top 75 guys of all time. Joel Embiid is, top 5, maybe at worst top 7 in the league as far as like players go. Kevin Durant, again, top 3 to 5 guy in the league, hands down. James Harden is a top 10 to 15 at the worst, right? So you got basically 3 top 10 to 15 guys on your roster, on your team, all like, yes, at the sort of tail ends of their prime, but they are still young enough to where they could win 2 or 3 championships. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's just health would be a big issue. And, if they're trading Maxey and they're trading Thibault, depth is still a big concern because they don't have a ton of depth already, and you're kind of losing that. But I mean, if you could put these three together on a team, you'd do it. You know, every team in the league would do whatever it took to get these three on a team. And this is a scenario where it does make sense to get Kevin Durant. You know, like there's a lot of questions about Boston because it's like Boston's right there. You know, they're a team that like they were just in the finals. They just improved their roster. They got some solid pieces. Like they don't need much of a change. Like how much better does Kevin Durant make you? I understand all those arguments. But with the Nets, you're basically upgrading Thibault and, you know, Maxey for Kevin Durant. You do that all night. You do that 10 times out of 10 times if that's a possibility. Again, I just don't see the path from where they're at now to Kevin Durant. Unless Kevin Durant fully forces his way to the Nets. But even then, he's on a 4-year deal. So it's not like the Nets have to trade him there. They're going to trade him to the best package available, which, you know, I just think Boston's package is just that much better. I think even if you just ended up with Jaylen Brown and like 4 first-round picks, that's still better than Maxey and Thibault and say like 2 or 3 first-round picks. Because like I said, Jaylen Brown is a proven commodity, a proven all-star, has done it, you know, year in and year out, showed that he could be that guy in a finals. You know, he was having 20-point fourth quarter final games, trying to single-handedly keep his team in it. Like that's the guy you get. If you could get him, I think you do. And because Boston is on the table, I just think the Nets I just think that they're not even going to look at Philly at this point. You know, I think that they at least keep them in the loop. They kind of keep that in their back pocket just in case. Like, this is our worst case scenario trade. Maybe we could work something out. But it's just like, I just think the Nets asking price is so high. And there are so many other teams that could meet that. Like, even the Pelicans. Like, I think Brandon Ingram and, like, you know, throw in some other guy, some other young guy or two, and, you know, 4 or 5 first-round picks would be better than Maxey and Thibault. I know some people might disagree. I know Sixers fans very likely might disagree, but that's just my take on this whole thing. And then, again, James Harden didn't leave the Nets because of Kevin Durant. He left the Nets because of Kyrie Irving. And then he said that. I mean, he didn't like the whole mess. Like, all the reports were like, he doesn't like Kyrie Irving not showing up. You know, he's missing games. He's not showing up to practice. He's late to practice. The front office just lets him do whatever he wants. The coach, it was a mess in Brooklyn, and he just wanted out ASAP. He didn't have any problems with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant wasn't the issue. Kevin Durant was showing up. Kevin Durant was doing what he needs to do. And James Harden was like, I was playing through a hamstring injury, and you couldn't even show up. Like, you know, like, how am I supposed to win here? And then the original reports were that James Harden wanted out. And, like, that was a talk for, like, a month, but, like, nothing was end up happening. And it was like, well, James Harden is concerned because he doesn't want the media backlash and the fan backlash if he demands a trade from 2 teams. And then ultimately he said, yeah, enough is enough. I want out of here. I can't take Kyrie Irving. I can't take the antics. I can't take this organization and just their mess and how they just let Kyrie get away with whatever he wants to do. I'm gone. Trade me to the Sixers. And ultimately he went to the Sixers. So I do think you could put this together. I do think it could work. I do think that, you know, a James Harden, Kevin Durant duo would work in and of itself. I think a James Harden and Joel Embiid duo could work in and of itself. And now you're adding all 3 to the mix. I just think however you slice it, like that's a home run. If you're the 76ers, you gotta do that. But those are my thoughts and opinions. And as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know yours down in the comment section below. What do you think about the Sixers potentially acquiring Kevin Durant? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think like it's even doable? Again, I don't know if the package will be enough to acquire Kevin Durant, but Daryl Morey is a guy that'll go all in. He's a guy that, like, if you want all the picks and all the pick swaps and you want Maxey and you want Thibault, here you go. They're all yours. Give us Kevin Durant, because he's more of like I'd rather get this done now, win now, and then worry about it, 4 years from now and try to, retool, do whatever I got to do. That's just Daryl Morey's just mentality. But, however you feel about the situation, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.